You're overreacting. It's just a college graduation, my wife Helena said, not looking up from her legal briefs scattered across our kitchen table. Her son Ethan nodded, spooning cereal like he was marking time until I left the room. Just family, Ethan added, his tone suggesting I didn't qualify. I stood there holding the graduation invitation, watching my wife of 8 years dismiss me like hired help. The invitation was cream-colored, expensive paper, Ethan's name embossed in gold letters. Below it, in Helena's careful handwriting, plus guest, Brent Caldwell. Brent, her ex-husband, Ethan's biological father who'd walked out when the kid was 12 and reappeared last year driving a Tesla and wearing custom suits. So let me understand this, I said, setting down my coffee mug with deliberate care. I've been paying for this kid's college for 4 years. I've been to every parent-teacher conference since middle school, but I'm not invited to his graduation because Brent gets the family slot. Helena finally looked up, her expression tired and impatient. Wilder, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Ethan wants his father there. It's one day. His father, I repeated. The one who hasn't paid a dime of child support in 6 years? Ethan's spoon clinked against his bowl. You're not my dad, Wilder. You're just the guy who married my mom. The words hit exactly where he'd aimed them. 8 years of driving him to soccer practice, helping with homework, teaching him to change oil in my garage. 8 years of being just the guy. I nodded slowly, cleared my plate, and walked to our bedroom. Behind me, I heard Helena's voice, softer now. Wilder, don't be dramatic about this. Dramatic. Right. I opened my laptop and pulled up the travel website I'd bookmarked months ago. A fishing lodge in Montana, 2 weeks of silence and mountain air. I'd been saving it for our anniversary trip, but Helena would probably prefer to spend that with Brent too. I booked it under my name only. Single occupancy, non-refundable. Then I called Mindy, Helena's sister. Mindy was the family gossip, which made her useful when you needed information to travel fast. Hey, Wilder, what's up? Quick question about Ethan's graduation party. Helena mentioned you were handling some of the arrangements? Oh, the dinner reservation at Romano's? And the hotel rooms for the out-of-town family? Yeah, Helena asked me to coordinate with the restaurant about the group size. Perfect. Who's covering the costs for everything? Silence. Then, well, Helena said the family account would handle it. Your joint account. Right. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. I thanked her and hung up. Then I pulled up our bank statements and took screenshots. Every payment for Ethan's college, every deposit into his savings account, every expense for the graduation party planning, all from my income, my accounts, my name on the transactions. I forwarded the screenshots to Mindy with a simple message. Thought you should know who's actually paying for the family celebration I'm not invited to. The next morning, I started making calls. Romano's restaurant first. Yes, I need to cancel a reservation for Saturday night. Party of 12 under Sornel. Sir, that's a large group booking with a deposit. Are you sure you want to cancel? Completely sure. I'm the one who made the reservation and paid the deposit. I'll need to verify. Yes, Mr. Wilder Sornel. I can process the cancellation, but the deposit is non-refundable. That's fine. Next, the hotel. 4 rooms booked for Helena's parents and siblings coming in from Ohio. I'd like to cancel rooms reserved under Sornel for this weekend. Let me check. Mr. Sornel, I show 4 rooms with your credit card on file. Canceling will result in a 1-night penalty fee. Charge it. The rental car for the airport pickup. Canceled. The flowers for Ethan's graduation party. Canceled. The photographer Helena had hired to capture family memories. Canceled. I forwarded every cancellation email to Mindy, Helena's parents, and her brother Mike. No explanations. Just confirmation numbers and the note. Payment issues resolved. By noon, my phone was buzzing with confused texts from Helena's family. I ignored them all. Helena was in court that day, arguing some corporate merger case that would keep her busy until evening. Ethan was at his final classes. I had the house to myself and a flight to catch. I packed light: jeans, flannel shirts, boots, the kind of clothes I wore before Helena started suggesting I dress more professionally for her work events. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand next to a printed copy of our joint account statement, with every graduation expense highlighted in yellow. At the bottom, I wrote, "You chose who belongs at family events. I'm making sure you can afford your choices." My flight left at 3. I drove myself to the airport, parked in long-term parking, and walked away from 8 years of being just the guy. I turned off my phone notifications somewhere over Colorado. The fishing lodge had no cell service and no internet. Just mountains, a lake that looked like polished glass, and silence that felt like medicine after 8 years of being tolerated in my own house. I lasted 3 days before curiosity got the better of me. I drove into town and found a diner with Wi-Fi. My phone exploded. 125 missed calls, 67 text messages, 14 voicemails. "Helena, where are you? Call me immediately." Helena: "Wilder, this isn't funny. The restaurant says you canceled everything." Helena: "My parents are stranded at the airport. The hotel has no record of their reservation." Helena: "You're being childish. Call me back." The voicemails started angry and escalated to frantic. By the last one, Helena's voice was shaking. "Wilder, please, just call me back. We can fix this." I ordered coffee and scrolled through the messages. Mindy had forwarded me a group text chain between Helena's family members. The graduation dinner had been a disaster. Helena's credit card was declined at Romano's when she tried to make a new reservation. Brent had paid for a smaller table, made awkward conversation for an hour, then left early claiming he had another commitment. Helena's parents ended up at a Motel 6 near the highway. The graduation party never happened, but the best message was from Mindy herself. "Wilder, you should see what your wife and Carter did after the party." Carter. I knew that name. Carter Maddox, who owned a used car lot downtown. Helena had mentioned him a few times, something about helping him with legal paperwork for his business. Mindy's follow-up message included a photo that made my coffee taste like ash. Helena and Carter, outside the Riverside Motel on graduation night. Her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. The timestamp showed 11:30 p.m., 3 hours after Ethan's graduation ceremony. I stared at the photo until the diner owner asked if I needed anything else. I paid my check and drove back to the lodge, but the mountains didn't look peaceful anymore. They looked like a place to plan. I extended my reservation for another week, then sent Helena a single text. "Saw the graduation photos. Looks like you found your real family. Enjoy paying for it." Then I turned the phone off again and started thinking about Carter Maddox. I came home on a Tuesday morning while Helena was at work, and Ethan was at his new job at some tech startup downtown. The house felt different, smaller somehow, like I was seeing it through a stranger's eyes. Helena had left a note on the kitchen counter. "We need to talk. I'll explain everything." I crumpled it up and threw it away. Then I started looking for everything she hadn't planned to explain. Our home computer first. Helena wasn't careful with passwords. She used the same one for everything, Ethan's birthday plus her maiden name. Amateur hour for a lawyer who should know better. Her email revealed 6 months of messages with Carter. Nothing explicitly romantic, but the tone was wrong. Too familiar. Too many late-night responses. Too many mentions of meeting to discuss your legal issues at times when she should have been home. I printed everything and put it in a folder. Next, I checked our joint credit card statements. Charges I didn't recognize. Romano's restaurant, but not for our graduation dinner. Multiple charges over the past 3 months, always for 2 people. The Riverside Motel, charged to our card 4 different times. She'd been using our money to finance her affair. I printed those too. The GPS history on Helena's car was even more revealing. Regular trips to Carter's car lot, yes, but also to his home address, to the Riverside Motel. to restaurants across town where we'd never eaten together. I was building a case like Helena had taught me to do when she talked about her work. Evidence, timeline, pattern of behavior. My phone buzzed. Helena. I saw your truck in the driveway. Where are you? I was in our bedroom going through her jewelry box. Hidden behind her grandmother's pearls, I found a burner phone. The text history made my hands shake. Not with anger, with something colder. Relief, maybe. Confirmation. Helena to Carter. He's gone for 2 weeks. We can finally relax. Carter to Helena. About time. I'm tired of sneaking around. Helena to Carter. After Ethan's graduation, we can talk about next steps. Carter to Helena. You sure you want to leave him? Guy pays for everything. Helena to Carter. That's exactly why. I can take half in the divorce and still have you. I photographed every message, then put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Helena's car pulled into the driveway as I was finishing. I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, calling my name. Wilder, are you here? I walked into the living room like I'd just come in from the garage. Hey, just got back. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Her expensive suit was wrinkled, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. We need to talk, she said. About what? About graduation, about you disappearing, about… She gestured helplessly. About us. I sat down on the couch, the same couch where we'd watched movies together for 8 years. I'm listening. What you did was cruel, Wilder. My parents were humiliated. Ethan's graduation was ruined. Over what? Because you weren't invited to one ceremony? That's what this is about? The ceremony? What else would it be about? I almost laughed. She was going to make me say it. Make me be the one to detonate the bomb she'd built. Helena, I know about Carter. Her face went pale, but she didn't deny it. That told me everything. I know about the motel. I know about the dinners. I know about the phone you keep in your jewelry box. She sat down heavily in the chair across from me. How long have you known? Does it matter? I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen, for months. She nodded, tears starting. I was going to tell you. When? After you filed for divorce and took half of everything? Her tears stopped. You read my messages. I read enough. We sat in silence for a minute. Outside, Mrs. Kiley was watering her garden and pretending not to look toward our windows. She'd be disappointed she couldn't hear anything. So what happens now? Helena asked. I stood up. Now you get exactly what you wanted. You get to be with Carter, you get to pay for your own choices, and you get to explain to everyone why your marriage ended. Wilder, please, can't we work through this? Like we worked through Ethan's graduation? Like we worked through you excluding me from my own family? She flinched. That was different. No, Helena, that was the same. You've been cutting me out piece by piece for months. I just finally noticed. I walked toward the bedroom. I'll be staying at Rafe's gym for a while. You can have the house while you figure out your next move. What about us? I turned back. There is no us. You made sure of that when you decided Carter was family and I wasn't. I packed a bag while she sat in the living room crying. Real tears this time, but I couldn't tell if she was crying for me, for us, or just for getting caught. As I was leaving, she called after me. Wilder, I'm sorry. I know, I said. You're sorry you got caught. Rafe's boxing gym smelled like sweat, leather, and honest work. It was a place where problems got solved with effort instead of lawyers, where respect was earned instead of demanded. Rafe himself was a former heavyweight who'd fought professionally until his knees gave out. Now he trained kids from the neighborhood and let guys like me work out their frustrations on heavy bags instead of making worse choices. Heard about Helena, he said when I showed up with my duffel bag. Mindy's been talking. What's she saying? That Helena's been stepping out with that car dealer, that you disappeared and left them all hanging at graduation. He handed me a pair of gloves. That true? The stepping out part, yeah. The graduation part? I shrugged. They said I wasn't family. I figured family could pay for their own party. Rafe laughed. Remind me never to cross you. I spent the next 3 days hitting bags and thinking. Rafe let me sleep on the couch in his office, shower in the gym's locker room, and work through my anger without asking too many questions. But on Thursday, he sat me down. You planning to stay mad forever? Or you gonna do something about this? Like what? Like stop letting them make you the villain. Right now, Helena gets to tell everyone you abandoned your family over a graduation invitation. She gets to play the victim while she's screwing around with Carter. What do you suggest? I suggest you stop playing defense. You got evidence, right? You got proof she's been cheating? I nodded. Then use it, but don't go to prison over it. Make them wish you would instead. That afternoon, I drove to Carter's car lot. Maddox Motors, a collection of overpriced used cars, and a trailer that served as an office. Carter was outside, talking to a young couple about a sedan with too many miles. I parked across the street and watched. Carter was exactly what I'd expected, mid-40s, too much gel in his hair, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's rent. He had the smooth confidence of someone who'd never been punched in the mouth. I waited until the couple left, then walked across the street. Carter Maddox? He turned, sizing me up. Yeah. You looking for a car? I'm looking for an explanation. His expression shifted. You're Helena's husband. For now. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Then you shouldn't have been sleeping with my wife. He glanced around the empty lot. Maybe we should talk inside. Maybe we should talk right here. Carter was bigger than me, but softer. Too many restaurant meals, not enough honest work. He had the build of someone who'd never been in a real fight. Helena said you two were having problems, he said. Said you were practically separated. Is that what she told you when you were using my credit card at the motel? He flinched. I didn't know about that. Sure you didn't. I stepped closer. Carter stepped back. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stay away from my wife, you're going to stay away from my house, and you're going to find someone else to handle your legal problems. And if I don't? I smiled. Then next time we talk, it won't be about cars. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Carter? You might want to check your insurance policy. A lot of vandalism in this neighborhood. That night, I drove back to the lot after closing time. Carter's BMW was parked behind the trailer, gleaming under the security lights. I keyed both sides, deep scratches that would cost thousands to repair. Then I left a note under his windshield wiper. Stay away from my family or next time it's your teeth. It was petty, sure, but it felt like the first honest thing I'd done in months. Helena called the next morning while I was having coffee at the gym. Carter says you threatened him. Carter says a lot of things, most of them to other men's wives. Wilder, this has to stop. I agree. Tell Carter to stop sleeping with you, and I'll stop caring what happens to his car. Silence. Then, you keyed his BMW. Prove it. The note had your handwriting. Did it? I'd love to see that evidence in court. More silence. Helena was thinking like a lawyer now, realizing she couldn't call the police without admitting why Carter and I had a problem in the first place. What do you want? She asked finally. I want you to stop pretending you're the victim here. I want you to stop using our money to finance your affair. And I want you to explain to Ethan why his graduation party was canceled. You canceled it. I canceled paying for it. There's a difference. I hung up and went back to my coffee. Rafe was training a kid on the speed bag, calling out combinations. The rhythm was hypnotic. Left, right, left, left, right. My phone buzzed with a text from Mindy. Family BBQ at our place Sunday. Helena's bringing Carter. Thought you should know. A family BBQ, where Helena would introduce Carter to the relatives as her new boyfriend while I was still technically her husband. Where they'd all pretend this was normal, healthy, the way these things should happen. I texted back, thanks for the heads up. Then I called my lawyer. Jennifer Walsh had handled my business contracts for years. She was sharp, expensive, and had no patience for emotional drama. "Divorce?" she asked when I explained the situation. "Eventually. But first I want to understand my options. With infidelity evidence, you might avoid alimony, but Indiana's a no-fault state, so the adultery won't affect property division much. You'll lose the house, it's in both names, and she's got more earning potential than you. What about Ethan? He's 22, no custody issues. College support? Not required, but if you've been paying voluntarily, stopping abruptly might look vindictive." I thanked her and hung up. The legal system would give Helena exactly what she wanted. Half of everything I'd worked for, plus the house, plus the respectability of being the wronged party who'd moved on with a new relationship. Unless I changed the rules. Sunday afternoon, I drove past Mindy's house. Cars lined the street, Helena's family, all gathered for the BBQ where Carter would be introduced as the new boyfriend. I parked 2 blocks away and walked back. Mindy's backyard was visible from the alley, and I could see the whole scene through the fence. Helena was there wearing a sundress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Carter was beside her, one hand on her back, playing the devoted boyfriend. Ethan was grilling burgers, laughing at something Carter had said. They all looked happy, relaxed, like this was how things were supposed to be. Helena's father was shaking Carter's hand. Her mother was showing him pictures on her phone. Mindy's kids were calling him Uncle Carter. I watched for 10 minutes, memorizing faces, listening to conversations. Carter was telling stories about his business, making everyone laugh. Helena was glowing, more animated than I'd seen her in years. This wasn't a rebound relationship or a midlife crisis. This was Helena's new life, complete with family approval and social acceptance, which meant it was time to remind everyone that actions have consequences. I walked back to my truck and drove to the hardware store. Spray paint, zip ties, and a few other items that would help Carter understand his position more clearly. That night, I returned to his car lot. The BMW was parked in the same spot, already showing the scratches from my previous visit. I zip-tied shopping carts to his door handles. I spray-painted adulterer across his windshield. I left a box of condoms on his hood with a note. "Since you like using other people's things." Then I drove home, to the house that was still legally mine, and waited. Helena was waiting for me in the kitchen when I got home. She'd been crying, but her tears had dried into something harder. "This has to stop, Wilder." "What has to stop?" "You know what? Carter's car, the harassment, the threats. I haven't threatened anyone. Vandalism is a crime. So is adultery in some states." She slammed her hand on the counter. "We're getting divorced anyway. What's the point of this?" "The point is consequences, Helena. For 8 years, I've watched you make choices and let other people pay for them. Ethan treats me like garbage because you never corrected him. You excluded me from family events because it was easier than standing up to your ex-husband. You cheated on me because you thought I'd just take it and keep paying the bills. That's exactly what happened. And now you want me to quietly disappear so you can have your new life without any inconvenience." I opened the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of water. Helena watched me like I might explode. "I hired a lawyer," she said. "Good. So did I. I'm filing for divorce next week." "Also good. I'll make sure Carter's wife knows before you do." Helena went pale. "Carter's not married. Carter's very married. To Linda Maddox, who works at the bank downtown. They've been married for 15 years. She has no idea her husband's been sleeping with his lawyer." The color drained from Helena's face completely. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken outside Carter's house. Carter kissing a blonde woman goodbye in the driveway. The same woman getting into a car with Linda Maddox, loan officer, on the business card I'd found in the bank parking lot. "He told me he was divorced," Helena whispered. "He told you a lot of things, like how he needed legal help with his business. His business is failing, Helena. He's 3 months behind on his lot rent, and his inventory is mostly repossessed cars he can't sell. He's been using you for free legal work and emotional support while he tries to save his marriage. Helena sat down hard in her chair. How do you know all this? Because I spent the last week actually investigating instead of just believing what I wanted to hear. I sat down across from her. Carter's not your new life, Helena. He's just another mistake you expected me to pay for. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Just like you didn't want to know how Ethan's attitude affected me. Just like you didn't want to know how it felt to be excluded from my own family. Helena was crying again, but these tears looked different. Less angry, more lost. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to understand that choices have consequences. I want you to explain to your family why your marriage actually ended. And I want you to stop acting like I'm the villain for refusing to be your victim. I stood up. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow. I'm keeping the house. You can explain to your lawyer why that's non-negotiable. You can have everything else, but you're going to earn it honestly instead of taking it from me. How can you keep the house? I smiled. Because it's not in both our names, Helena. It's in my name only. You never bothered to read the deed when we got married. You just assumed I'd put you on it eventually. Her face went white. That's impossible. Check the county records. I bought this house 2 years before we met. You've been living in my house, sleeping with another man, and planning to take half of everything in a divorce. But you can't take what was never yours. Helena stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Who are you? She whispered. I'm the guy who finally stopped letting you walk all over him. I walked toward the bedroom. You can stay tonight, but I want you gone by tomorrow evening. Take whatever's yours, leave everything that's mine, and don't come back. Wilder, wait! I turned back. What? I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry Carter lied to you. You're sorry your plan didn't work. I shrugged. But you're not sorry you did it. If Carter had been single and rich, you'd be planning your new life right now instead of apologizing to me. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it, because we both knew I was right. Goodbye, Helena. The next evening, Helena was gone. She'd taken her clothes, her laptop, and her law books. Everything else, the furniture, the kitchen equipment, the decorations, stayed behind. It wasn't generosity. It was acknowledgement that none of it had ever really been hers. I was sitting on the porch with a bottle of whiskey when Mindy pulled into the driveway. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her car keys as she walked up the steps. Hey, Wilder! Mindy! Helena told me what happened, about Carter being married. I nodded. She's pretty messed up about it. I imagine she is. Mindy sat down on the porch swing. Look, I know this is awkward, but I need to tell you something. I waited. The affair, it wasn't just about Carter? What do you mean? I mean, Helena's been unhappy for a long time, since before Carter. She felt like you two were more like roommates than husband and wife. So she decided to find a boyfriend instead of talking to me about it. She tried to talk to you. Last year, remember? She suggested marriage counseling. I did remember. Helena had brought it up after some argument I couldn't even recall now. I'd dismissed it as unnecessary drama, said we could work things out ourselves. That doesn't justify cheating, I said. No, it doesn't, but it explains it. Mindy was quiet for a minute, swinging gently. There's something else. What? Ethan. What about him? The DNA test Helena had done, the one you found? I turned to look at her. What about it? It wasn't to prove you weren't his father. It was to prove Brent was. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Explain. Helena wasn't sure. When she got pregnant with Ethan, she was dating both you and Brent. She chose Brent because he had more money, but she was never completely certain he was the father. The porch seemed to tilt sideways. Are you saying... I'm saying the test came back negative. Brent's not Ethan's biological father. You are. I stared at her. That's impossible. Helena never told Brent the results. She never told Ethan either. She just let everyone keep believing what they wanted to believe. Why are you telling me this? Because Ethan deserves to know the truth. And because you deserved better than being treated like an outsider in your own family. I took a long drink of whiskey. 22 years. Ethan had been my son for 22 years, and Helena had let him treat me like a stranger. Does Helena know you're telling me this? Helena doesn't know I know. I saw the DNA results when I was helping her move some papers. She'd hidden them in her office files. Why didn't she tell me? Mindy shrugged. Because then she'd have to admit she lied to everyone for over 2 decades. Because Brent would stop paying for Ethan's expenses if he knew the truth. Because it was easier to let you be the stepfather than to deal with the complications of you being the real father. I finished my whiskey and set the glass down. What does Ethan know? Nothing. He still thinks Brent's his father and you're just the guy who married his mom. And Helena? Helena's staying with Carter, even though he's married. She's convinced herself he's going to leave his wife. Is he? What do you think? I thought about Carter. Smooth-talking, financially desperate, married for 15 years. Men like that didn't leave stable marriages for complicated affairs. She's going to get her heart broken. Probably, but that's not your problem anymore. Mindy stood up to leave. Wilder, what are you going to do about Ethan? I don't know yet. He's a good kid underneath all the attitude. He just needs to understand who his real family is. After Mindy left, I sat on the porch until the whiskey was gone and the stars came out. 22 years of being treated like an outsider by my own son. 22 years of Helena letting me pay for everything while she pretended I wasn't really family. But now I had something Helena didn't know I had. The truth. And the truth was going to change everything. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the library. I needed to think, and I needed to do it somewhere quiet and neutral. I found a corner table and spread out everything I knew. Helena's affair with Carter, Carter's marriage to Linda, the DNA test proving Ethan was my son, and Helena's lies to everyone involved. The old me would have confronted Helena directly, demanded she tell Ethan the truth, and probably ended up in another screaming match that solved nothing. But I wasn't the old me anymore. The old me had been too trusting, too passive, too willing to let other people make decisions about my life. The new me was going to be strategic. I started with Carter. He was the weakest link, desperate for money, lying to his wife, using Helena for free legal services. If I could remove him from the equation, Helena would be forced to face her situation honestly. I drove to the bank where Linda Maddox worked. It was a small branch, the kind where everyone knew everyone else's business. Linda was behind the loan officer desk, a pleasant-looking woman in her 40s with tired eyes. I waited until she was free, then approached her desk. Mrs. Maddox? I'm Wilder Sornel. I think we need to talk about your husband. Her smile faltered. I'm sorry? Carter's been having an affair with my wife. I thought you should know before you hear it from someone else. Linda's face went through several expressions: confusion, denial, recognition, and finally, resignation. How long? She asked quietly. 6 months that I can prove. Maybe longer. She nodded slowly. I suspected something. He's been working late a lot, taking calls he wouldn't explain. I pulled out the photos I'd printed, Carter and Helena at restaurants, at the motel, kissing outside his car lot. Linda looked at each one carefully, like she was memorizing evidence for court. What do you want from me? She asked. Nothing. I just thought you deserved to know the truth. And what are you going to do with this information? I'm going to let Carter explain to his wife why his marriage is ending. And then I'm going to let my wife explain to her family why she's dating a married man. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Carter doesn't know you're here. No. Good. I'd like to be the one to tell him we're done. I left Linda to plan her own confrontation and drove to Ethan's apartment. He lived in a converted warehouse downtown, the kind of trendy space that cost more than my mortgage, but had exposed pipes and concrete floors. Ethan answered the door in pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking like he'd just woken up despite it being nearly noon. Wilder, what are you doing here? We need to talk. If this is about Mom and Carter, it's about you and me. He stepped aside reluctantly, and I walked into his apartment. It was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive furniture, gaming equipment, and the general mess of someone who'd never had to clean up after themselves. Look, Ethan said, I know you're upset about the divorce, but Mom's happier now. Sometimes relationships just don't work out. Is that what she told you? That our relationship just didn't work out? Well, yeah. I sat down on his couch without being invited. Ethan, your mother's been having an affair for 6 months, with a married man, using money from our joint account to pay for hotel rooms and dinners. His face shifted. That's not... Mom wouldn't do that. Your mother did exactly that, and when I found out, she blamed me for overreacting. You disappeared during my graduation. I left after being told I wasn't family, after being excluded from my stepson's graduation, while your mother invited her ex-husband instead. Ethan sat down across from me, looking younger than his 22 years. You're not my dad, Wilder. Brent is. Actually, that's not true. I pulled out a copy of the DNA test results Mindy had photographed. Your mother had this test done last month. It proves Brent isn't your biological father. Ethan stared at the paper like it might change if he looked at it long enough. This is fake, he said finally. Call the lab. The number's right there. Why would Mom lie about this? Because Brent has money and I don't. Because it was easier to let you think he was your father than to deal with the truth. Because your mother has been making choices based on what's convenient instead of what's right. Ethan was quiet for a long time, reading and rereading the test results. So you're my real father? Biologically, yes. But you never told me. I didn't know. Your mother let me believe you were Brent's son, and I was just the stepdad who happened to pay for everything. Ethan's face was going through the same progression Linda's had. Confusion, denial, recognition, anger. 22 years, he said quietly. 22 years of you treating me like an outsider. 22 years of me paying for your school, your car, your apartment, while you called Brent your real father. I didn't know. I know you didn't, but your mother did. Ethan stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the city. What happens now? Now you decide what kind of relationship you want with your actual father, and your mother explains to everyone why she lied for over 2 decades. Are you going to tell people about the DNA test? I'm going to tell the truth, Ethan. What people do with it is up to them. I stood to leave. Think about it. When you're ready to talk, really talk, call me. Wilder? I turned back. I'm sorry. About graduation, about everything, I didn't know. I know you didn't, but now you do. By Thursday, the dominoes were falling exactly as I'd planned. Linda Maddox had confronted Carter Tuesday night. According to the gossip network that flowed through Rafe's gym, Carter had come home to find his belongings on the front lawn, and the locks changed. Linda had filed for divorce Wednesday morning and frozen their joint accounts. Carter, suddenly homeless and broke, had shown up at Helena's temporary apartment begging for help. Helena, who'd been expecting him to leave his wife for her, instead found herself supporting a man who'd lost everything and had nowhere else to go. Mindy called me Thursday afternoon with updates. Helena's freaking out, she said. Carter's living on her couch, eating her food and asking her to loan him money for a lawyer. Romantic. She keeps asking how his wife found out about the affair. I told her these things have a way of coming to light. Any word from Ethan? He's been asking questions about the DNA test, about why Helena never told him the truth. She's trying to convince him you forged the results. Did he believe her? He called the lab himself. They confirmed everything. That evening, Ethan showed up at my house. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Can I come in? It's your house, too, biologically speaking. He almost smiled at that. Almost. We sat in the living room where Helena and I had our final conversation. Ethan looked around like he was seeing the place for the first time. I called Brent, he said. What did he tell you? That he suspected I might not be his son. That's why he left when I was 12. Mom kept asking for more money, and he started wondering if he was really responsible for me. And now? Now he says he's relieved. He doesn't have to pretend to care about my graduation or my career or anything else. Ethan's voice was bitter, and I didn't blame him. Finding out your father isn't your father and your stepfather is your real father, while your mother lied about everything for 22 years, that was a lot to process. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For not being a better father? For letting your mother exclude me instead of fighting for my place in your life? You didn't know you were my father. I should have acted like one anyway. We sat quietly for a while. Outside, Mrs. Kiley was walking her dog and trying to look through our windows. The woman had no shame. Helena wants to meet with both of us, Ethan said finally. To say what? To explain her side, to apologize, to ask us to keep the DNA results private. What do you think? I think she's scared. Carter's broke, Brent doesn't want anything to do with any of us, and her family's starting to ask questions about why her marriage really ended. Are you going to meet with her? Ethan shrugged. Are you? I thought about it. Helena had made her choices, the affair, the lies, the years of treating me like an outsider in my own family. She'd gambled on Carter being her upgrade from me, and she'd lost. But she was still Ethan's mother, and Ethan was still trying to figure out how to navigate this mess she'd created. If you want to hear what she has to say, I'll be there, I said. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. You're my son. That means I show up even when it's uncomfortable. Ethan looked at me with something I'd never seen before, respect, maybe, or recognition. Thanks, Dad. It was the first time he'd called me that. 22 years later, but better late than never. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory where Helena couldn't control the environment. She was already there when Ethan and I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and looking like she'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Carter wasn't with her. According to Mindy, he'd moved back in with his brother after Helena told him she needed space to think. Thank you both for coming, Helena said as we sat down. Don't thank us yet, I replied. We haven't heard what you have to say. Helena looked at Ethan, then at me, then down at her coffee cup. I know you're both angry. We're not angry, I interrupted. We're disappointed. There's a difference. I never meant for things to get this complicated. You had an affair with a married man, lied about paternity for 22 years, and excluded your husband from family events while he paid for everything. Which part wasn't supposed to be complicated? Helena flinched. I made mistakes. You made choices, Ethan said quietly. Every day for 22 years, you chose to lie to me about who my father was. I was protecting you. From what? From having a father who actually cared about me instead of one who disappeared when things got difficult? Helena's eyes filled with tears. Brent had money. He could give you opportunities. Brent gave me nothing, Ethan said. Wilder gave me everything. And you let me treat him like garbage because it was easier than telling the truth. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. After the divorce? After you'd taken half of everything and moved in with Carter? When exactly were you planning to mention that I'd been paying to raise my own son while being treated like an outsider? Helena was crying now, but they weren't the manipulative tears she'd used during our marriage. These looked like genuine regret. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix 22 years, Ethan said. "Sorry doesn't fix the way I treated my real father because you told me he wasn't family." "What do you want from me?" Helena asked. Ethan and I looked at each other. We'd talked about this on the drive over. "We want you to tell the truth," I said, "to your family, to your friends, to anyone who asks why our marriage ended." "I can't." "You can and you will. No more blaming me for overreacting. No more playing the victim. You tell people you had an affair, you lied about paternity, and you destroyed your own marriage." "And Carter?" she asked. "What about Carter? Are you going to keep harassing him?" I laughed. "Helena, Carter's wife, kicked him out, froze his assets, and filed for divorce. His business is failing, his reputation is ruined, and he's sleeping on his brother's couch. I don't need to harass him. His own choices are punishment enough." "He says you're the reason Linda found out." "I am. I told her the truth about her husband, just like I'm telling everyone else the truth about you." Helena stared at me like I was a stranger. "You've changed. I stopped letting you walk all over me. If that's change, then yes, I've changed." Ethan reached across the table and took his mother's hand. "Mom, I still love you, but I can't trust you anymore. And I can't pretend that what you did was okay just because you're sorry now." "What does that mean?" "It means you need to earn back our respect instead of expecting it. It means you need to face the consequences of your choices instead of asking us to help you avoid them." Helena nodded slowly. "And us? Our family?" "We're still family," I said. "But the rules have changed. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more taking advantage of people who care about you." "Can you forgive me?" Ethan and I exchanged glances again. "Maybe eventually," Ethan said. "But not today." Helena cried harder, but she nodded. "I understand." We left her sitting in the coffee shop, staring into her cup, and finally facing the reality of what she'd done. In the parking lot, Ethan turned to me. "Think she'll actually tell people the truth?" "She doesn't have a choice. Too many people know now. If she tries to lie, someone will correct her." "And Carter? Carter's done. His marriage is over, his business is failing, and Helena can't afford to support him. He'll disappear back to whatever rock he crawled out from under." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "What about us? What about us? Do we just start over? Pretend the last 22 years didn't happen?" I thought about that. We don't pretend anything. We acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and build something better. Like what? Like a real father-son relationship, based on honesty instead of lies. Ethan smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him since this whole mess started. "I'd like that, Dad." "So would I, son." We drove home together, to the house that was finally, honestly, ours. I'm writing this from the porch of the house I almost lost to a woman who never deserved it. The same porch where Mindy told me the truth about Ethan's paternity, where I planned my revenge against people who thought they could use me without consequences. Helena moved back to Ohio to live with her parents after Carter disappeared. She tells people her marriage ended because of irreconcilable differences, which is technically true if you consider adultery and pathological lying irreconcilable with marriage. Carter's car lot was repossessed 3 months ago. Linda took him for everything in the divorce, which wasn't much. But it was the principle of the thing. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in another state and keeping a much lower profile. Ethan and I have dinner every Sunday. We're still figuring out how to be father and son after 22 years of being strangers, but we're making progress. He's dating a nice girl who doesn't care about his family drama, and he's talking about graduate school. The best part? He pays for dinner sometimes now. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. Because that's what family does for each other. Mrs. Kiley still watches everything from her garden, but now she waves and asks how Ethan's doing. The neighborhood gossip network has moved on to other scandals, though occasionally someone will mention that mess with the Sornel woman and the car dealer. I let them talk. The truth has a way of spreading on its own once you stop trying to hide it. Rafe still lets me work out at his gym, though I don't need to hit the heavy bag as often these days. Anger was useful when I needed motivation for revenge, but it's a terrible foundation for building a new life. People ask me if I regret how I handled everything: the canceled graduation dinner, the confrontations with Carter, the way I exposed Helena's lies to everyone who would listen. I don't. Helena made choices for 8 years that prioritized her comfort over my dignity. She excluded me from my own family while I paid the bills. She cheated on me with a married man and planned to take half of everything in a divorce. She gambled that I would be passive, that I would accept whatever scraps of respect she was willing to give me, that I would quietly disappear when she was done with me. She lost that bet. The old Wilder would have suffered in silence, accepted the blame, and probably ended up paying alimony to a woman who destroyed their marriage. The old Wilder would have let Ethan go on thinking Brent was his father, while I remained the outsider who happened to pay for everything. But the old Wilder died somewhere between being excluded from that graduation and finding those photos of Helena with Carter. The new Wilder believes in consequences. The new Wilder tells the truth even when it's inconvenient. The new Wilder doesn't let people use him and then blame him for objecting. The new Wilder has a son who calls him Dad and means it. That's worth more than any revenge I could have planned. They said I was overreacting to being excluded from a college graduation. They were wrong. I was finally reacting appropriately to 8 years of being treated like I didn't